If you've ever started the year motivated and ended it disappointed in yourself, this video is for you. Hi, my name is Jasmine C. My channel will guide you as you become the person of your dreams through self-discipline, real habits, and intentional growth. Welcome to the safe space for those who live every day still becoming the best version of themselves. Most people don't fail at habits because they lack motivation. They fail at habits because they don't know how to successfully integrate new habits into their current lifestyle. Number 2, they want to completely flip their whole life over in one day. And number 3, they rely fully on motivation to do so. The thought of setting and committing to new habits shouldn't feel so overwhelming and scary to the point that you self-sabotage and end up giving up on them every single year. That's why today I will break down habits to you in a way that will feel both safe and doable. Number 1, focus on identity, not just outcomes. Instead of asking what results you want, ask who do you want to become. Habits tend to stick more when they match the person you want to be. I want you to do this. Envision the future ideal version of yourself. Picture her. What habits does she have? What does her typical day-to-day look like? Is she wasting time, not taking herself serious, just doom scrolling and gossiping all the time? Or does she move every day with intention and a passion to better herself? What type of food is she consuming? Does she fuel her body with whole, healthy foods, or does she rely on junk food and energy drinks for fuel? Does she just bed rot or lounge all day, or does she live a pretty healthy, fit lifestyle, whether it's walking, running, gym? Having that vision of the dream ideal version you want to be in the future will help guide you whenever you start setting new goals and habits for the year. And if your mind is getting clouded and foggy with all of the social media advisors out there of things you need to be doing in your 20s to be successful, please just remember this ideal version of yourself right now and envision what that looks like for you. It will look different for everybody. The advice that you see on social media can be good sometimes, but it could also sway you to a different path from where you want to be. Just have that dream ideal version of yourself, whether you write it down on paper or you have a vision board, a dream board, your wallpaper, whatever it is. And anytime you feel stuck making an important decision that will impact your future, just remember that ideal version of yourself and think, what do I need to do today to get me to my ideal version of myself? Ask yourself if the habits and the routines that you have set for yourself right now will lead you to that dream version of yourself. If the answer is yes, you're on the right path and keep doing what you're doing. If the answer is no, you drop those and you return to the right path for you. Remember, at the end of the day, staying true to yourself is what will bring you the ultimate amount of happiness that nothing else can bring you. Number 2, starting too big breaks trust. I know what you're thinking. I need to be aiming for the biggest goals possible this year. It is the best time to invest in myself and lay the foundation for my future. And yes, I agree with that 100%. However, you need to be logical and strategic about it. Every time you set an unrealistic habit that you can't keep, you don't just drop the habit. You lose trust in yourself. I know that you want to set the best habits and routines for yourself right now to become that dream version of yourself, but I'm telling you, the best way to go about it is not to set a crazy goal like reading 100 books in 1 year and you've never read a day in your life. That will break trust whenever you realistically don't accomplish it. And I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying it's very difficult because you've never read a day in your life. The easiest way to go about setting habits that will actually last long term is by asking yourself, okay, if my goal is to read 100 books, maybe I shouldn't set that goal for 1 year. Maybe I shouldn't limit myself and give myself that 1 year deadline. Maybe it's okay if I don't accomplish that in 1 full year. I haven't read a day in my life. I can start off small and still get to my end goal in the future. I'm still bettering myself. I'm still doing something that will help me get better. If I read 10 self-help books this year, yes, it's not the same as 100, but I am still making progress through small habits, and that's what matters in the end. That's exactly what strengthens the trust you have within yourself, and that will help you long term because whenever you set new goals for the year, you will generally feel like you can achieve anything because you've proven that over time by setting these small intentional habits that you can actually follow through. Which leads me to my third point. A few habits is enough. You don't need 50 new habits this year. You don't need a full routine. Let's say, for example, you have 20 new habits that you want to implement this year. 20 is a lot. However, it is doable with the right strategies. Let me explain. If I have 20 new habit goals this year, instead of writing down the 20 new habits that I have for the year and trying to implement those all at once, I'm going to break those down. Whatever new habits you have for the year, write them down on paper or type them down on your computer, whatever it is. Put it down on something. Let's say I have 20. I want you to write them down, list them from 1 to 20. From most important to least important. This might be a little bit hard, but you need to rank them. Now that you've ranked your habits, I want you to break them down into sections. What does that look like? For me, for example, if I have 20 new habits, I'm going to break them down into quarters. So the first quarter of the year, I'm going to focus on the first 5. Second quarter of the year, I'm going to focus on those next 5. Third quarter, the next 5. Fourth quarter, the last 5. So I'm still implementing those 20 new habits throughout the year. I might not start off by completing those full 20 on January 1st. However, at the end of the year, I will still have accomplished implementing 20 new habits into my life, which is honestly pretty impressive considering that a lot of times we want to set 15 new habits right at the start of the year, and when we look at the end of the year, we realize we probably only really kept maybe 3 of those. And that is because we don't try to strategically implement those into our lives, so they end up just falling off because 20 new habits for one human being is a lot to implement at once. So like I said, first quarter of the year, you're going to focus on your first 5 on that list. Implementing 5 habits at the beginning of the year is so much easier. You implementing 5 is doable. And make sure that you have check-in points. So at the end of that first quarter, you have completed the 5 new habits and they're part of your life now. No questions asked. Now, second quarter comes in, you have those second 5 and you, again, take that serious. Try and implement those new 5. And if you do it slower like that, by the end of the year, I can almost guarantee you that you've probably implemented all 20, if not close to the number. A few habits done consistently builds way more trust than 20 inconsistent habits. Point number 4, have a practical framework. Here's a gentle way to start sticking these habits without burning out. Look at your first 5 habits of the quarter. Shrink them until it feels easy. What does that look like? Attach those habits to things that you already do and let them evolve naturally. For example, let's say one of the new habits you want to implement is reading. Well, something that we do every day is eating. If you have a job, you have a lunch break. If you go to school, you have a lunch break. Or even if you're at home, you still eat. So eating is something that we have to do, right? It's something we do naturally. We don't really think too much of it. We just kind of have to eat to fuel ourselves. A helpful way you can implement your reading habit is by saying, okay, whenever I eat, I'm going to read. Most of the time, what we do is we put on a show, we start scrolling on TikTok, whatever it is. We most likely do something while we eat. There is a few people that don't do anything while they eat, they just eat, but for the most part, most people do something while they eat. So instead of sitting there scrolling on TikTok or watching a show, you're going to say, okay, I am going to read while I eat. Why? Because I know that I am going to eat. That's not something you usually skip. So because you don't skip eating, if you attach the goal of reading every day to eating, it'll be so much easier for you to accomplish that and implement that habit and make it a habit that actually sticks because you're actually eating every day, and that means you're reading every day. If you tell yourself, I have to read when I eat, trust me, you'll probably finish a book way faster than you think. And I'm not saying you have to do that with every meal. I'm just saying to begin with, maybe attach it to eating because you know you're going to eat, whether it's breakfast, lunch, or dinner. You can start off small. I'm going to read in one of my meals. Then probably, later on with time, you might just end up reading during every single meal. That could be your goal to implementing this habit. But even if you read once a day during one of your meals, that's still a habit that you implemented at the end of the year that didn't feel as hard because you were eating already. So you kind of attached it to something, and it might have been hard at first to not get on your phone and doom scroll or not put on your favorite show. Yes, it might have been hard, but you sacrificed those few minutes of eating or that half hour, that hour, whatever it was, to reading, and now you'll feel so much better because you will be able to say that you successfully implemented and committed to that habit at the end of the year. Another example of this could be if you commute somewhere, either to school or work. If you don't drive yourself, instead of getting on your phone and just doom scrolling, again, you can carry a book in your bag and tell yourself, anytime I have dead time, for example, during my commute, instead of doom scrolling, I am going to read. And yes, it's going to be hard at first because you don't already do it. But again, it's an easier way to try and implement this habit than just by setting a separate restricted time that you try and read. Because if you attach it to something you're already doing, it's so much easier. Another thing you can do to help you with this is read the book Atomic Habits. I just got it as a gift, but I haven't read it yet. But I have heard so many good things about it. I have seen online so many good things about it, and I've seen people say that it is a really good book that will help you actually implement habits into your life, and it gives you examples from what I've heard of small things you can do like that, which is literally this point of saying habit stacking is really, really helpful whenever you want to implement those new habits, because it's going to be very hard at first. Like I said, it's not going to come naturally to you to do these things and commit to them long term, but if you trick your brain to doing these things by attaching them to things you already do, it'll be so much easier for you to commit to the habit goals that you set for yourself. Another example of this could be, instead of doom scrolling on TikTok for 3 hours, maybe you tell yourself, okay, if I'm going to get on my phone and be scrolling on social media, maybe I can just scroll through actual self-help pages. Maybe I'll scroll on self-help podcasts. I'll scroll on things that will actually try and help me and motivate me, rather than just a For You page that is not really going to do much but distract me. That way, at least even if you are on your phone, instead of wasting that time, you're actually adding into your life, because you're actually using your phone to better yourself, not just doom scroll on things that you're not going to remember 2 hours from now. You actually read self-help posts, or you listen to some advice, whatever it is, at least you're consuming content that will actually be helpful for you. Again, just finding small ways to implement habits. You don't need to completely change your whole life, because at the end of the day, that will not last. Unfortunately, we are creatures of habit. So if you don't try and work these habits in slowly, they will not happen for you. So please just try and work them in slowly. Try and find ways that you can implement them without putting so much on yourself to the point where, again, you self-sabotage and you lose trust in yourself. Be practical with your habits. You will trust yourself so much more, and it will be so much easier for you to set new goals and habits every single year. Number 5, motivation fading is normal. Like I said in the beginning of the video, most people don't fail at habits because they lack motivation. They fail at habits because they rely on motivation. The motivation is supposed to fade. We fail at habits because we expect ourselves to function at peak energy all the time. But that script is flipped. Building and setting sustainable habits is what will get you through when the motivation isn't there. You wake up and you're sore and tired and you don't want to go to the gym. Motivation isn't going to be what makes you get up and go to the gym again. What is going to make you get up and go to the gym is having that habit set into your life already. If you rely fully on energy to do things every day, you will never get anything done. If you rely on your motivation every single day to work towards your goals, you will get to your end goal a lot slower. Setting habits is essential. Yes, it sucks in the moment. Yes, you don't want to do it, but that's the whole point of setting habits. The whole point of setting habits is you showing up for yourself and making yourself responsible for that future version that you want to become, because guess what? Motivation isn't going to save the day. Motivation is simply an emotion that humans feel. If humans woke up every day and operated fully on emotion, our world would not be okay. We feel different emotions all of the time, and we shouldn't let those emotions dictate where our life goes. So no, don't rely on motivation. Motivation is probably your biggest enemy, because the days that matter the most are probably going to be the days that you have the least amount of motivation. But you have to remember, again, motivation isn't what's going to get you to your final destination. Habits will. So for the sake of yourself and your future, do not rely on that motivation. Stick to forming habits so that whenever you wake up and you don't feel motivated, you can actually get up and do the things that you need to do. Be the person who doesn't rely on motivation to accomplish their goals. Habits should be built for your low energy days, not your best ones. Number 6, rest days protect your habits. Taking breaks doesn't ruin your progress. it actually helps your habits last even longer. If you make yourself feel guilty for having rest days, you are literally self-sabotaging in real time. Rest days are not optional. They're vital for us to continue with our goals. I know we live in a world where it's kind of hustle culture 24/7 all year round, and social media can sometimes make you feel like if you're resting, you are weak, or you have no drive, or you have no discipline, whatever it is. But that is so far from the truth. Rest days will recharge you and make you come back even better. If you don't give yourself the time to rest, again, your habits will most likely not stick because you don't even have the energy to do them, which goes hand in hand with the motivation. If you lack motivation and you haven't rested, you're probably not going to get far. If you prioritize your rest days, whenever you wake up and you don't have motivation, you will still be able to pull through for yourself because you feel well rested and you have that habit down. You don't need that motivation. But if you skip those rest days because you let social media tell you that you're a failure and you are not disciplined if you rest, then the days that you wake up with no motivation and no rest, you will not get anything done. That will essentially make you feel even worse at the end of the day because now you feel like a failure times 3 because you didn't get up, you didn't do what you need to do, all because you didn't prioritize your rest. So no, resting does not mean you're weak. It does not mean you're a failure. Your habits should support your life, not punish you. Resting should be a part of your implemented habits. Resting will protect your habits long term. You shouldn't punish yourself for needing rest, and you should treat your habits like an act of self-love, not self-control. You don't need to force yourself into discipline. You need habits that will actually meet you there. Just remember that small steps still move you forward, and be gentle with yourself as you start. If you are working on yourself in a way that actually lasts, you are in the right place. You can subscribe and be a part of Still Becoming. Bye.